I can't imagine people just suffer like this alone. There has to be another way. I originally just became so curious about ketamine for my own healing. I had had a pretty significant traumatic experience, and I thought I was having a heart attack, and I ended up in the hospital. And I think it was just a panic attack. My heart was acting really weird, but it was so traumatic. Like, I would be at home crying in my closet because I didn't want my boys to know, being a single mom. And so I just started researching. And I had a friend that worked at a ketamine clinic. And so I went and I did it. And for me, that was like such a big step because at that time, I really liked feeling in control. And with ketamine, it was something new. I didn't know what to expect. It's similar to like a psychedelic at that dose. All of that made me nervous and anxious. And I literally just cried before going into it. There wasn't quite the education that I provide now, having patients go in. And so when they did the injection, it was like I was still trying to control it. I was still trying to figure out, what is this? And my brain, wanting to solve it, was like, let's just do math and we can solve this problem. And then the second dose hit, and then it's like you just surrender, and you just feel this floatiness, this peace. It was really good. I was still a little bit unsure. I'm always kind of the skeptic until like I personally have a testament of it. And they're like, well, just be patient and watch your thoughts in a couple days. And then I think it was 24 hours. I just saw everything as a different perspective. I was like, this happened for my greatest good. This is realigning my whole path. And I saw it in such a completely different way. It was almost like it was a blessing. And I don't think I would have gotten to that shift so quickly without the ketamine.
Before we dive into today's episode, I want to give a quick shout out to the sponsor that makes this Generational Health podcast possible, Hiva Health. At Hiva, we're all about helping you live longer, feel stronger, show up better for the people and passions that matter most. Whether it's hormone optimization, medical weight loss, peptide therapy, personal skincare, or gut health, Hiva delivers modern, proactive healthcare that's designed around you. It's fully virtual, available nationwide, and powered by real technology and real people who actually care. If you're ready to invest in your health span, not just your lifespan, head over to hivahealth.com and start your journey today. I should note that prescription medications must be prescribed by a licensed provider in your state, and individual results will vary. And with that, let's go ahead and get started on our episode. Thank you. Molly Nelson, welcome to the Generational Health Podcast. Thank you for coming in. I've been really excited to talk to you about lots of stuff. We're going to get into that in a minute, but before we do, I think it'd be good to turn some time over to you and just let you introduce yourself.
Okay.
Tell us who you are and what you do. Tell us a little bit about Arizona Wellness Centers, and we'll just go from there.
Okay. Thank you so much for having me. It's such a passion of mine to want to share like the message of healing. So I'm Molly Nelson. I opened Arizona Wellness in 2018. It started just as my own passion for wanting to heal. I had I was 35 when I found out I had PCOS. So it was hard for me to get pregnant, had miscarriages. And so I wanted to learn everything about nutrition and hormones so I could help heal myself. And then through that, I was like, oh my goodness, there's so many people struggling. And so Arizona Wellness was birthed. And so that is where my passion started. I saw that we could help people optimize their hormones or help them lose their weight. And then if they hadn't dealt with their like childhood trauma, people were still like suffering. And so I was like, there's got to be more. And that's what put me on my passion for helping people heal emotionally with ketamine.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So before Arizona Wellness Centers, where are you from?
Yeah.
And then because you've been in this industry for a while too,
Mm-hmm.
right? So before Arizona Wellness Centers, you were working for other clinics. And so you've kind of been around this industry for a while too.
Yeah. So I'm born and raised in California. I've been in and out of Arizona, and now I've been here since 2018. Yeah, I ran a med spa here locally and brought hormones into that clinic. And then I went and worked for a compounding pharmacy in Utah, MedQuest, and they did all the training nationwide for hormones. So it's been about 15 years being in the industry. Yeah. Okay.
So lots of experience in hormone optimization. And,
Mm-hmm.
and what you were saying before is that, so you're seeing that people come to you to optimize their health, but they're still dealing with some trauma,
Mm-hmm.
or they're trying to lose weight and they're still dealing with some trauma. Do you find that kind of that traumatic, emotional healing piece of it, how do you see that trickle into our physical
Yeah.
health?
Yeah. So a lot of that stuff, like those emotions that get trapped in our body, can then start to show up like anxiety, depression, autoimmune disease, other health ailments. And so it's just this coping mechanism. Like if we, like in our childhood, found out or figured out that our emotions weren't safe, just a survival mode, just to push them down. I think a lot of us grew up in that space. Like, don't cry, or I'll give you something to cry about, or if you're crying, go to your room, So like I was never taught to feel my emotions. And I think a lot of people aren't, at least in my generation. And so those emotions just got stuffed. And I didn't learn boundaries. All I knew was people pleasing, and it was all survival to feel safe. So yeah, if we don't look at them, if we don't honor them, if we don't express them, it can turn into disease for sure.
Yeah. So the reason that I reached out to you initially was primarily around ketamine. Ketamine treatments are becoming a bit more like mainstream. People are talking about them a little bit more. I know I have personal contacts that have experienced some really strong, the healing powers of ketamine treatments and how it's helped them overcome some past trauma, stress, depression, lots of other things. So I do want to dive into that and talk about kind of your passion for ketamine. And then maybe if you could teach us a little bit about what it is and what it does to the individual, like why does it work? Why are people using it? And then maybe we can get into some other stuff around like how you've seen it clinically used and actually like maybe some case studies on what it's done to help people.
Yeah, that sounds good. So I originally just became so curious about ketamine for my own healing. I had had a pretty significant traumatic experience, and I thought I was having a heart attack, and I ended up in the hospital. And I think it was just a panic attack. My heart was acting really weird, but it was so traumatic that I was just like, there has to be another way. Like I would be at home crying in my closet because I didn't want my boys to know, being a single mom. And I was like, I can't imagine people just suffer like this alone. And so I just started researching. And I had a friend that worked at a ketamine clinic. And so I went and I did it. And for me, that was like such a big step because at that time, I really liked feeling in control. And with ketamine, it was something new. I didn't know what to expect. It's similar to like a psychedelic at that dose. And so all of that made me nervous and anxious. And I literally just cried before going into it. And there wasn't quite the education that I provide now having patients go in. And so when they did the injection, it was like, I was still trying to control it. I was still trying to figure out what is this? And my brain wanting to solve it was like, I'll just do algebra. I don't even know algebra. My brain's like, let's just do math and we can solve this problem. I still in my mind. And then the second dose hit, and then it's like you just surrender, and you just feel this floatiness, this peace. And so it was really good. I was still a little bit unsure. I'm always kind of the skeptic until like I personally have a testament of it. And they're like, well, just be patient and watch your thoughts in a couple days. And then I think it was 24 hours. I was just like, oh, I just saw everything as a different perspective. I was like, this happened for my greatest good. This is realigning my whole path. And I saw it in such a completely different way. It was almost like it was a blessing. And I don't think I would have gotten to that shift so quickly without the ketamine.
And that was after a single treatment?
Just one single treatment. Yeah.
So when do you see most people notice the biggest benefit after how many treatments?
So we typically recommend 6 sessions twice a week if their schedule allows, or 6 sessions once a week. But most people have relief after their first session. So it's easy to keep getting them back in to build more emotional flexibility with the ketamine.
Okay. I didn't realize after a single treatment that people experience that much relief. That's pretty cool. So you mentioned that you had some anxiety going into it yourself. I'm sure there's a lot of people that have thought about doing it because they've heard about it or they've been dealing with stuff for so long. I think there's a lot of people out there that get desperate too. At least the conversations I've had with people that end up choosing to try ketamine was generally, it was kind of their last resort. They had, been on antidepressants, multiple types of antidepressants. Many of those have their own side effects. weight gain, libido, all that kind of stuff can be impacted by that. And it becomes kind of like this, almost like, I don't know, it's like a cycle that you can't get out of. And it's almost like a depressive cycle where you feel depressed. So you take this thing, but then this thing has side effects that make you more depressed. And then it's like how do you claw your way out of that? And so I do know people that got to a point where they were just like, I need to try something completely different. And they went to this. But I'm sure there's a lot of people that have it would be great if they went to this before, why do you think there's a lot of anxiety around trying this type of therapeutic versus just going straight to like an antidepressant?
Yeah, I think anything new can be scary. And I think when you feel like you don't have control, that's the most I hear is people are like, what if I say something funny? What if I do something? Like, what if they're just so worried? And people just lay there. They don't say anything, I think it's mostly the fear of not having control. Yeah.
I think that'd be it for me.
Yeah.
Because you asked me too, like you said, hey, do you want to come in and try, and I'm like, oh, I hadn't even thought about it.
Yeah.
Because I don't necessarily, I think we all have stuff, but it's hard for me to say that I have any trauma compared to some of the trauma I know that friends or family have around me, where I almost feel guilty even like thinking that I have trauma because there's some heavy stuff around us. But then you got me thinking about it and I'm like, well, would I do it? And I'm like, I don't know. I don't like the feeling of, not having control. Yeah. So what are you experiencing? So once you get to cause it's a 2-shot with you guys, cause there's the IVs, right? Mm-hmm. So I think we should talk through the different modes of actually getting it. I know people have done it with troches, injections, and an IV. What's the difference between those, and maybe what would be like the your experience once you're kind of in it? Yeah. Specifically with the injection, on the second injection, when you say you sort of you kind of have to surrender, what are you feeling? What's that experience? So maybe what is the difference between going into it with an IV versus injection versus maybe a troche? Yeah. And then what do you feel while you're in there?
Yeah. So the IV, when they turn it on, it's on. So it's a quicker drop in. And then once you turn it off, it's just shut off, and then you're hooked up to it as well. And a lot of the clinics that do IVs will put you in a room by yourself. So for me, the safety, having a guide there is so important to me. I don't think I could have surrendered without somebody being in the room to know they've got me. And then the injection is just a little bit in the beginning, just so you can feel it, get familiar with it, and just know it's like a sigh of release, that first part. And then, so it's a soft drop in. So it's just not intense. So you get to experience the medicine in you. And then the second dose peaks you into the experience. And most people say it feels like floating in water or out in space. So you definitely disassociate. So you feel out of your body, which feels floaty. And sometimes people are scared of that before, not knowing what that feels like. But usually by talking through it and what it feels like when it comes in, they're like, oh, this is what she meant. And then I always let them know, you'll always come back to your body. So just trying to surrender to that floating feeling, that peace feeling, because the more you can surrender, it's almost more magical.
Yeah.
So.
And then I think lastly, the troches, I think it just takes a lot longer. It's almost like you can get into kind of that deeper part of it, but it's probably a lot less controlled also, because it probably takes a while to hit. And then once it hits, you're probably just you don't know when it's going to end either.
Yeah.
Right?
And it's metabolizing through the gut. To be honest, I don't have experience with it because it's not an area that I feel comfortable with.
Yeah. Okay. So I think some of the hesitation too, I think is around what you mentioned. You don't know if you're not going to have control or you're going to say something. Do most people, are they just completely quiet? They don't really talk through it, or do people talk?
I would say 95% of people are quiet. I've had people have past loved ones come in to the experience and they talk to them, and then I just journal it all down for them. I've had some people wow, it's just so beautiful. So really sweet things that have come up, nothing weird. Yeah.
Yeah.
I just wanted to touch on the comment that you made about like, you don't want to be selfish, like you don't have trauma compared to other people. And I think there's an also another way that we can look at it. You know, sometimes like as we're getting older and our parents are getting older and they have health stuffs, or if we have siblings that are going through traumatic things and we're emotional support, or if our kids are going through something hard, it all has an impact on our nervous system. And I had a gentleman come in last week and he had horrific trauma. And he goes, I don't want to be selfish to spend that money on me. And I was like, hey, maybe I would just invite you to think about that 8-year-old that went through that trauma. I don't think that's selfish to want to heal that. And so to me, it's the same thing. Like the weight and stress that we carry in the world right now is pretty significant. Like even as entrepreneurs or having a family, I think there's a lot of things that are more stressful and overwhelming. And we don't call it trauma, but it weighs heavy on us, you know?
Yeah. And that's really interesting because I remember the conversation we had before setting this up. We were kind of going through some of that, and you had mentioned that these types of treatments help people that are even entrepreneurs, like business owners and others that are kind of just going through the grind of trying to start a company or make payroll, all that kind of stuff. That I think you're spot on. It's hard because I think, I don't know if it's a society thing. I don't know if it's a personal thing, if it's a male versus female thing, but at least I know in my circle of friends, most of us just feel like it's just part of our responsibility is to just bear a lot of stress because it is what it is. That's just part of being a man. Provide for your family. You kind of, the whole like bear one another's burdens, like you sort of just feel like you just take it on and you go with it. But there does have to be a point at which like that backpack could be too full, you know? But it's hard to know what's normal stress and what's like, okay, maybe I'm taking on too much.
Yeah. And like, I think we get so used to like, it's just a grind. You have to have the pain, for the reward. Or like we've taught, like endure to the end, the suffering. And it's like, what if we could rewire those messages? Like, what if we could live with life like through ease and grace? What if we could have abundance through ease and grace? What if it didn't have to be in a grind or 50 or 60 hours or like, it's just, you can rewire whatever. It doesn't have to be something traumatic.
Yeah.
So it's just optimizing that brain.
So what is ketamine actually doing to the brain?
Yeah. So it works on the glutamate system, which is, it helps create emotional flexibility. So I like to use the example, like just for simple analogy, like if you were just going on a snowy hill and you were on a sled and you go down the same path over and over, that sled would create like a rut in the snow and eventually probably get to the mud. But you keep going on that same because you don't see any other path. And those are our thoughts and our patterns that we loop on, and we don't see anything outside of it. And then like you do ketamine and it creates that surge of glutamate, and you get at the top of the hill and you're like, oh my gosh, there's so much snow over there. I could take that path, or I could go play with those friends over there. So it gives you a pause in your looping and in your thoughts to be like, wow, there's so many other options.
Yeah. So what you're relating that to is kind of like if someone has like a triggering event, right? Or they experience trauma, something happens, something comes up and it reminds them of that trauma, or kind of our response, kind of our natural response mechanism, where if this happens, then I have to, like to your first analogy, this sled, then I have to respond this way. I have to react this way.
Yeah.
But because ketamine creates this, what you call neuroplasticity, it kind of smooths that out and says, well, I don't necessarily have to go down that path. I don't have to respond that way. I don't have to be mad that way or be sad that way. I can actually look at this completely different and maybe I'll go that way.
Yeah.
Which is exactly the way one of my good friends explained it to me. Almost the same analogy.
Oh, really?
His was a ski slope. It wasn't sledding. Yeah. But I thought that was really interesting because for decades of his life, it was like he had no choice but to react and respond one way.
Yeah.
And he couldn't control that. It was just the way it was. And so ketamine allowed him to have choice, which is really kind of cool.
Yeah. And the pause in your reaction is so beautiful because I hear stories of like, wow, I've been really hard on my husband. I saw him differently. Or like, wow, I had a lot more patience with my kids, or didn't respond the same I know. Like I probably would have yelled and I was way more patient, you know? And so I hear all these really beautiful stories of how that pause gave them a chance to react differently and create a new pathway for them.
Are you okay sharing maybe a couple stories from
Yeah.
people that you've worked with, and
Yeah.
maybe, how you have seen ketamine really shape and change
Yeah, for
their
sure.
life?
There's been there's been so many that have been powerful, but one is a dear friend, and her dad had committed suicide 10 years ago. And to witness her in that, as a friend is like, it was on my heart a lot. And she did ketamine and she did a package of it. And I think halfway through, her dad was able to come in, and for her, she felt like he was just still lingering. She felt like there was still something there for her to do, and she created a nonprofit to help people with suicide. And he came in, and she was able to finally like say goodbye to him and let him go. And like the peace that she got from that was really impactful for me. And I had another patient that her son had overdosed from fentanyl 17 years ago, and she just couldn't get over the grief of it. And he came in, and she saw him with the angels, like just playing and happy. And she's like, he's the healthiest he's ever been. When he was on drugs, he didn't look healthy. And she had so much peace just knowing he's healthy and he's happy and he's with the angels. So those were really big ones. And then the grace that they find for themselves, like the deepness of self-love or the clarity on their path, or like witnessing couples relationships strengthen. Like we had a couple that was starting to separate assets, and they planning to get divorced, and they both started ketamine. And it's like, they found faith, they started going to church, they started traveling the world. And it was just, yeah, it's really beautiful. Like it's one of my biggest honors outside of being a mother to be able to sit in these sessions and witness these miracles.
That's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
So how would it work? Like if I'm a patient and I want to get started, what's the process? Like what would I experience? Like if there's a camera on the wall watching my whole experience of like onboarding with you and then sitting or laying down, like just if you could explain like what that looks like, that'd be awesome.
Yeah. So usually it's typically a phone call where they're kind of investigating, asking questions. A lot of times I'll do that. And then we'll schedule them for a medical intake with our nurse practitioner just for a screening process to make sure they're a fit for it. And then we send them a ketamine guide of like how to prepare. So, we don't have them eat a heavy meal beforehand. They can't drive. We talk about setting an intention before they come. And then that day of the appointment, we do vitals. We talk about their intention. I journal it for them. And then we call it like flight instructions because they're going on a journey. And we just walk through what the experience is going to feel like, if they need comfort or help grounding. And then we put headphones, which we play a really gentle playlist to curate a gentle experience. So they have headphones on and an eye mask, and then they're in the medicine for about 45 minutes to an hour. And when they feel complete, they'll feel like they're back in their body. They take the headphones off and the mask, and then usually 100% of the time, they all want to talk about it, what it felt like, the magic of it. And so I journal all of that for them so they don't forget the pieces while it's fresh. And then we serve them like herbal tea. We have like cashews and grapes and dark chocolate, because just the food helps ground back into your body too. And we have about an hour for integration. So we just talk through anything that comes up that they want to talk about. We check their vitals again, and then we make sure they have a ride and they're safe to get home.
Yeah. Awesome. So you said that you make sure they come in with intention. What does that mean?
Yeah. So how I like to work with intention, like intention's usually like you want to release something, right? So if you're like, I want to heal my anxiety, I want to release my depression, usually that creates some openness in your body. And it's like, what's the outcome you want? I want to heal my depression so I can feel more love in my life. you know. So I help them with that, and we try and create an intent if they want to switch the intention for everyone. The intention just like it might not happen in that session, but the intention is good for that whole several days, because you put that intention out there in the universe and you start seeing evidence of it. You know, you start seeing like, wow, I feel better. I do feel more love in my life. You know, it's just what you focus on expands. So we just like to help with that.
And then you said it takes about an hour afterwards to kind of come back out of it and feel like you're fully.
We just allow an hour for integration.
Okay.
Usually after like they've had their snack, like they come out and usually 5 minutes are like, I still feel maybe a little bit floaty, or, you know, so I just let them take their time until they're ready to talk. But yeah, usually within that hour, they're good to go. I mean, not to drive, but they're fine to get up and walk out.
So who would you say is like the best, who are the best candidates for ketamine treatments?
Well, I would say anybody that's really wanting to do the work to emotionally heal, because ketamine is just one tool and you'd still have to do your part of the healing, you know? And I would say most patients that are there are for that. Somebody that has been diagnosed with schizophrenia or bipolar mania wouldn't be a candidate, or somebody with uncontrolled blood pressure, high blood pressure. But outside of that, you know, most people would be a fit.
Because you did say, I think earlier, that it can raise your blood pressure while you're under for a bit.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Like typically up to 10 points. So somebody that's uncontrolled high blood pressure, we'd want to manage that first.
And I would assume that it probably is not appropriate for those that currently have maybe other drug addictions as well.
Correct. Yeah. We between 30 to 90 days, and we would want like clearance, you know, from either a therapist or a doctor or something like that. We are very cautious in the screening process because we just want it to be a good fit for everybody.
Yeah. Do you have an opinion on any of these other therapeutics that are kind of these psychedelics that are getting a bit more mainstream as well, like psilocybin and I don't know all the names of the different psychedelic treatments, but you have a lot that are some are geared more towards maybe emotional, some are geared towards I don't know. I'm trying to understand a lot of it, but you have some that are really good with PTSD and or even addiction. And then you have, you know, ketamine, which obviously is helping with anxiety, depression, and past trauma, emotional healing. But there's probably a lot of crossover between these different experiences. But have you done much research on these other ones? That
I mean, I'll be transparent. I tried quite a few. And I think there's definitely several plant medicines that are amazing, but here in the US, it's not easily accessible. And I want to work with something that I can be transparent about and in a safe container that's legal. And ketamine kind of mimics like a psilocybin experience. But I think they did a lot of research around MDMA, psilocybin, and there's really great results.
What's the difference between the two?
So MDMA, and I'm also more familiar with Kana, which is from mistletoe. So it feels like you're out of your head, where we operate so much in our mind. So that kind of shuts off. You're still in complete control, but you're more in your heart. And so to be in your heart healing just feels so much better than being in our mind. And it creates so much like connection, like when you're in community having that experience. So that honestly, plant medicine was what started my healing.
Do you see, I know you mentioned in the US, those other plant medicines are not available legally or in a controlled way. Do you see that changing with some of the research that's come out? I know that, I want to say Rick Perry in Texas has done a lot of work around, it was either psilocybin or is it MDMA?
MDMA,
for PTSD in military. And so he's been a big proponent of it, even though he comes from hyper conservative Texas. You know, he's been a Republican conservative. So his party, this is not something that's normal for that from a political standpoint, but he's taken a strong approach on it just because he's seen how many how many people it's really affected and
Yeah.
healed.
Yeah.
And so that being said, I mean, do you see that changing in the future here? Do you see there being kind of this wave of support for these types
Yeah.
of more natural therapeutics versus just throwing people on pharmaceutical drugs?
Right. I always hope, I felt like we were getting closer last year and it got shut down. There's some states that are a little bit more flexible with it, but I'm always hoping for better alternatives and more natural ways, but there's a
Yeah.
lot of money in sick people.
Tell me more about that.
I mean, medications make a lot of money.
Yeah.
Insurance makes a lot of money.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think the system may be a little bit broken.
Do you have, it seems like we have some people in place right now that are trying to change that a little bit. Just with the Maha movement and everything.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's a lot of varying degrees of, it gets political. I hate that it gets all political.
Yeah.
When it really is just trying to give people access to
100%
actual healthcare, not sick care. And they've made some big strides, I think, so far, which is interesting. And I'm excited to hear that hopefully some of these peptides are going to come back too.
Yeah.
That we're just kind of taken off because of probably money, that are, naturally occurring, branch chain amino acids that you had to get them. You can still get them, but they're, you're buying them from questionable websites,
right?
Or there are some pharmacies that would still make it, but they weren't supposed to, but they're being sold as not for human consumption
100%,
or for testing purposes. And they're like trying to do all these like workarounds for something that's been, I think it just actually went through trials. And there's been some great trial work that's come out just on BPC and TB500. So just that. And I just see, the development of psychedelics, and you call it plant medicine. I'm just hopeful that we will have access to what we feel like, what a doctor feels like is best for their patient, versus just trying to control so much of it for the sake of money and trying to control medications and trying to push certain drugs. Yeah.
The system is not built for it to be easy to be healthy, even to our food and the toxins, medications, the doctors, so I admire people that are passionate about their health, because I know it takes a lot of effort, and you have to be like your own advocate. You have to learn, you have to study.
Yeah.
So
as far as like, the healing process, are there things that you coach your patients around, just with life habits, things they should do, things they should avoid, relationships, just to help, outside of ketamine treatments, but like someone that's on that healing journey? What are some things we can do just in our everyday lives to try to minimize some of those, stress spikes and the things that are impacting our entire system? You talked about kind of our neurological system, our hormones, everything gets out of whack when we experience these stress responses. What are some things and some, what are you telling people to do just as daily habits to help?
I think one of the biggest parts is being connected with your body. And the first time I heard that, I was like, I don't get that. Like, that was so foreign. And I remember one of my mentors was like, your body's always talking to you. And the only thing I could think about how it talks to me is like, if I have to go to the bathroom, or if I'm thirsty, or if I'm stressed. And once I started to learn all the signals, like, our body's always talking to us. Like, if I'm stressed, I feel it in my shoulders. If I'm anxious, a pit in my stomach, So the connection to our body is huge. And then realizing like an emotion will pass in 90 seconds if we allow it. Like, if we honor it, like for me, anger is something I suppressed my whole life. Just be the good girl, be quiet, be a people pleaser. And so I was like, oh, I don't even have anger. I just realized I had suppressed it. And so my new like tool, when I feel anger coming on, I honor it. So it's like, go to the gym, or lately I learned this one tool. I think it's fun. It's silly, but to take a frying pan over my head, literally, and then smash the bed with rage music. And literally, it didn't even take 90 seconds. In 30 seconds, I'm like, oh, okay, we can go back to life. And so honoring those emotions, like whether it's sadness, anger, whatever it is, they will pass, but we're so used to pushing them down. So once I learned that was such a big game changer.
That's interesting. So you said that emotions will pass within 90 seconds if you allow it?
Mm-hmm. I didn't believe it till I started practicing it.
But they'll probably stick around if you don't accept it.
I'll be pissed all day long. I'll be mad at everybody if I don't like honor it.
I'm trying to think. There's a show we were watching recently where someone was going through something really hard and they were just bottling it up, and then they
an explosion,
and then like it was a man and a woman, and he basically looked at her and taught her how to just yell. They were out in like the wilderness or something, and just said and he just starts screaming and just like letting all that energy out.
Yeah.
And it looks weird and goofy, but like when you've ever just like let loose when you're alone or whatever, and you just, like it actually feels good to get that out. So
yeah, it's just energy that wants to move.
Yeah.
So it's like however it wants to be moved. I got the cutest text message this morning. So we just did a ketamine retreat last weekend, and I taught the women about the emotions in the frying pan. And one of the girls, she had her niece over, and before 7:30, I think she's like 4, she had already thrown a tantrum and having a fit. And she took a video with her doing the frying pan. This cute little 4-year-old banging the frying pan on the couch. And then I asked her, like, did she feel better? She's like, yep, we went straight into a dance party. And so all those emotions moved. And I was like, can you imagine if you learned those tools at 4? Like, just amazing.
So do you think I wonder, because I've been accused of not being, showing certain emotions sometimes. And I'm like, well, it's not that I'm not. Okay, so all of us have emotions, right? 100%. Some people are more, we use the term emotional than others.
Right.
But what does that even mean, right? It's like, because there's so many different emotions. There's happy, there's sad, there's this, there's that. So do you think it's not that people are not emotional? It's just that some of us are good at hiding certain emotions more than others, but they're all there?
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
And I think is you hide them because they haven't been safe. And I think what I've witnessed, like in the men in my life, the ones that feel like okay to experience is like stress, anger, overwhelm. I don't usually see, like, those are the acceptable ones for men, like I don't see very many men that say I'm sad, I'm worried, I'm scared, or cry, so we just learn, like, and not very many women go to anger because that's probably not as acceptable for women, so we learn in our childhood which emotions are safe and which ones we need to hide.
Why do you think that is for men? Why are those the safe emotions for men?
I can only speak of like what I experienced in childhood, but it was like my brother getting spanked when he's crying. It's like, stop crying, or like, it wasn't okay. Like, it stressed my dad out. And I just witness, like, guys say, don't be a pussy, like, toughen up. Just things like that. I mean, and did you ever feel like it was okay?
Well, I mean, I was just asking that because that seems normal. Like that just for a guy, there are those acceptable emotions because we should get angry. We should be protecting. We should be like, those are okay to show because it shows kind of like, in a way, like your manhood. Right. But the other side, what you were talking about, it's not like for a guy to be, scared. That's not being a man. Right.
It's perceived as weakness.
Or to cry. That's necessarily not being a man either.
Right.
Even though it's like, I know better than that, but it's still, this has been kind of an interesting thing for me. As I've gotten older too, because there's been times where I'm like, why am I not showing a lot of emotion with certain things? And I do think it is sort of like I don't know if it's a coping mechanism sometimes, or if it's it's almost like I'm trying to protect the people around me. That's 100%. What I actually think it is more than anything, is like, if I'm a husband and a father, that I don't want to show like fear. I don't want to show sadness. I don't want to show that I'm scared about something, or you know what I mean? Because I don't want to pass on worry to my family. So it's almost like this as a protector, like you're protecting them. Yeah. And I'm sure there's like the right place and right time too, because you probably don't want to, like, just because I don't want to, make my family feel nervous about something, that I shouldn't show emotion, but maybe I just need to do it in a different setting, or I don't know, but it makes sense to me why there are these acceptable emotions for men and there are these acceptable emotions for women. And when we suppress the other ones that we still all naturally feel, it's going to probably stir up some problems for all of us.
Yeah. And I think like Brene Brown says it well, where she's like, shame hides in the darkness. And like sometimes when you speak about it, like even if you just said like to a buddy, like, hey, I'm really stressed out, I don't know X, Y, and Z. Like you saying that to a friend is going to create so much connection and vulnerability. Just expressing it will probably create some safety. And for him then to see you in it, like I just think the vulnerability is magic. Or even if you were able to say it in a way to your wife, like where she's still safe. Like it's okay for you to be sad or be worried. Everybody's still safe. And I just think about like that must have been a coping mechanism. So then I think about you as this perfect little boy that learned like, I can't tell people I'm scared or I'm worried. And then like that just makes my heart like melt. And then I just think I just want to have compassion over that version of you that feels like I have to be the protector for everybody. Like that's a big weight to carry.
Yeah. I think most men feel that way.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is probably why there's, so this is actually Men's Health Month, right? November.
Yeah, you're right.
And I've seen a lot of posts on Instagram pop up about just statistically, like the suicide rates in men. It's very, very high. And suicide ideation in young men is very, very high. I think there's a lot of pressure on a guy to be a certain way. I mean, there's pressure on women too. Yeah. But just talking about men right now, we were talking about Tyler, one of our joint contacts, and he's putting together, or he has had this group called Levels, which is kind of a men's group that he's put together to try to create some support system even amongst men. Yeah. And I think it's less common. So you talked about doing a retreat with women, right? So you do these retreats with women, which I want to talk about too, like what that is and what you do. But I also think it is important. Male relationships are important too. I think a lot of us, like I've got some really great friends, but we don't spend a lot of time like in those vulnerable like situations together, just like opening up to each other. Right. When we are together, we're just hanging out or watching a fight, or we're, playing a sport or doing something like that, but we're not really like in a setting to just kind of like be vulnerable. Yeah. And so, Tyler and some of these others that I know of that have these groups, I think is pretty cool to like create an environment where it's like, it's expected that you're going to be a bit vulnerable and it becomes okay. It's like, it's okay here, and there's a group of guys here that I've met even just through this podcast that have really dialed in their ability to stay connected with their male friends and reach out to them and tell them they love them and all the things that aren't really normal for a manly man to do, right. Which I think is pretty cool. I think people are starting to talk about it a bit more. I've had guests on here that have big platforms that have dealt with, body dysmorphia and depression and not feeling good enough their whole lives and not feeling manly enough their whole lives. And, and they sat right where you are right now telling me how I finally just wanted to be true to myself and be authentic. And so like one of them is Clayton Christensen. Clayton Eckerd. Clayton Eckerd, and he was The Bachelor, and now he's like he does all these dance videos. Like he loves hip hop dance, and so it's like for so long he was chasing like getting married and The Bachelor and being like the most desirable guy and all this, and now he's doing something where people make fun of him all the time on social media because he's dancing. Yeah. But he's like, this is who I am, and he's embracing who he is. And so we had a really good conversation about men's health as well, which I thought was really good. Anyway, just I'm seeing there's kind of a bit of a movement of men that are kind of stepping up and taking a leadership role to say, hey, we need to talk. Like guys need to talk about how they're feeling, because I think we do tend to shelter and hide a lot from our families. Yeah. Trying to be a protector. Yeah. Because life is tough and it can be scary, especially like if you've got, like we all have crazy jobs and some of us are entrepreneurs and so, like we have all these pressing things. We got to pay bills. We got all stuff. At the same time, you just want your family to feel comfortable and 100%. Safe and taken care of. Yeah. So I don't want to let them know all the things that are stressing me out. So to have some of these other groups, I think are good too. You can rely on your spouse. I get that. There's no, like my wife is my best friend,
Right.
and I know I can tell her
I love
anything,
that.
but it is different also to have guy
Yeah.
friends. It's a different dynamic, and it's a different type of vulnerability
Mm-hmm.
when you open up to your wife or your spouse versus a close friend of the same sex. It is different.
Oh, 100%, because they understand, they get it. They are a man. Like, and I think that's what the beauty of these women retreat is, the same thing. Like, ketamine is an amazing tool, but I think just as powerful is the women being seen and heard by other women, being like, I feel that way too. You're not alone. And like they come in carrying these, like you said, backpack, this heavy backpack, of everything they've carried their whole lives. And to watch them put the backpack down and share these really sad, hard things, like, is so healing for them. They say it's like, like 5 years of therapy in one weekend. So it's just the witnessing and being seen is so powerful. So I love the men's group idea.
Yeah. So tell me about the retreat that you just had. Like
Mhm.
what is that? What do you do? And how does
Yeah.
that, like, how did that come about?
It was just like another passion, like from all of my healing, what helped me heal the fast. I really like being efficient and organized. And so like, how do I help people get there faster? Cause I feel like it was 5 years of me experimenting. And so we created these retreats. And so it's 2 days of ketamine. So you get that surge of glutamate, which helps. But like I noticed, so they come in on a Thursday, everybody's strangers. Some of them traveled in, they're a little bit unsure, they're a little bit guarded. And we do like an icebreaker and dinner together that first night to getting to know each other. But like after they do their first ketamine, it just breaks them open. They like see each other, they have connection. You just see them really, really bonding. So the ketamine's done in a group experience. So we get to set intentions together. They go into the medicine together, and then they come out and they each get to talk about their experience. And so, and then that after that, we usually will do workshops to like help with that rewiring. So I like to teach like a workshop about 5 core wounds. You know how like there's the 5 love languages. I like to kind of talk about our core wounds. There's 5 of them. And I think it's just so helpful if you can identify yours, because most of the time when we're in a trigger, even right now as adults, it goes back to one of our core wounds from childhood. So we could be like, for me, I can say like one of my core wounds was not feeling seen and heard from childhood. And then like somebody as an adult right now can interrupt me, what I'm saying, and it can trigger that not being seen and heard. It's not really about them interrupting me. It's about that child that, didn't feel seen and heard. And so like to see when I'm triggered, like, hey, this is a moment for me to see and hear myself and heal. And so I teach these techniques, like what's your reaction? What's your trigger? What's your reaction to your trigger? And how do you want to rewire that? And then we do another day of ketamine, another workshop. But this one felt really personal to me because like I'm in a mastermind, and I got super emotional right before our mastermind when they started asking me about play. And that makes me like want to crawl out of my skin. Like I just learned how to be an adult from a young age. Play is like something I'm not good at, or I haven't been good at. And so I'm like, I like to like overcome things. I'm like, I can be a good player. I know I can. So I get on Amazon and I buy coloring books and I buy karaoke and the strobing lights. And I'm like, I'm just going to take it and just see what happens. And I told one of the girls, and I was like, hey, on my mastermind, they challenged me to do a cannonball in the pool. And I was like, I would never do that. Like, that's just not my style. She goes, well, I feel like we're going to do it. So all the women have the cutest video. We all did a cannonball into the pool. And then that whole day, it was just full of play. We did karaoke, we had a dance party, and it was just so fun to see like we could heal and rewire through play just as well as a day before of like rewiring through talk and emotions. So there's so many ways we can do it. It's like it doesn't always have to be hard. And so I feel like the retreats are just like an area we get to experiment. Like what's a part of us that we want to like to show up, like women that didn't trust women, they didn't share things, like for them to be vulnerable, like it's just a safe container to practice all these new things. And they leave like sisters. It's so sweet.
And most of these women don't know each other when they go into it?
No, I've never had anybody come with a friend. None of them have known each other.
It's just a bunch of strangers.
Yeah.
Wow.
And it's so powerful. Like our first one was in June and they all flew back in October. Most of them flew back to see each other and to do ketamine in the office. And like they just created like a mini retreat because it was so powerful. And like they have these sweetest group threads, and it's just like, I love it.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah.
Are there any big myths around ketamine that you think would be good to
I think
bust?
there's fear, right, around the way people misuse it. How we use it is very safe. So if you're doing any drugs, like outside of a safe container to numb, I don't feel like that's a good solution. And that's why we do it in a medical facility with set and setting and intention. But people hear wild stories of people using medicine inappropriately.
Yeah. Yeah. I think one other thing I've heard is people feeling scared that they'll get stuck in the K-hole.
Yeah.
Is that a myth? And, what should people know about that?
Yeah. So we dose it by weight. So I've sat in 200 sessions this year. I've never seen it. Yeah. And I think about like people worry about it. Like, what if I become an addict? But like nobody says that when they're going into surgery and they're having ketamine, So it's just a stigma around mental health, I feel like.
Yep. Yeah. Okay. Well, good. Anything else with ketamine that you think people should know?
Yeah, I just think if it comes into your awareness or you have the thought about it or it starts showing up in your life in some way, it might be a sign.
It might be a sign.
Mm-hmm. Just like you calling me. It might be a sign.
Maybe. I think, and for those listening, you encouraged me to go in and do it. And I didn't get around to it. And part of it was probably me just dragging my feet because I do have kind of the same nerves as other people. Mm-hmm. I am not big into any substance only because I pride myself on having total control and not being dependent on anything. And, that's just kind of how I am. And so when you talk about, after that second shot, just kind of, what was the word you used?
Just surrendering.
The word surrender.
Yeah. Trigger.
I'm not a good surrenderer. That's just not, I don't think that's me, is to surrender. Yeah. So, which is probably, more reason to potentially need something like this. So maybe it would be good for me just to surrender once in a while.
Yeah. The control is just an illusion. Having kids taught me that.
Yeah. So anyway, I appreciate that. And I'm really optimistic on these types of therapies and how they can help people. I know there's a lot of people that have been so dependent on a lot of other pharmaceuticals and other things to try to cope with emotions and stress and anxiety. And a lot of times they do, sometimes they're absolutely warranted, obviously, but in many cases, those that are heavily dependent on it, it just, again, it creates more harm than good in the long run. And so I love that there's therapies like this that can create some hope for people that are looking for an alternative.
Yeah.
And relatively low risk too, based off of everything that I've seen and researched myself. So, okay. The question I love to ask people at the end of this episode or at the end of these podcast episodes is about generational health. Okay. So I'm going to ask you, what does the concept of building generational health mean to you?
Breaking generational trauma. Yeah. If I can do my part to heal that, then my child has a different experience and child has a different experience. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah. So it's all about, so from your perspective, it's more about the generational trauma side of things. That's interesting.
We carry it from way before us.
Yeah. I mean, you think about just even our survival instincts are in a way trauma passed from
100%.
a long time, right?
Yeah.
I mean, just living in a cave and being scared you're going to get eaten by an animal.
Yeah.
That still lives in us, which is kind of nuts.
Yeah.
So,
most of us are living like we're being chased every day from the bear.
I feel like I am.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks so much for coming in. For those, so we're here in Arizona, and those that are here local, if they want to contact you or contact your clinic, what's the best way to get in touch with you?
Yeah. All our social media is Arizona Wellness Center. And then our website is AZ-Wellness.
Okay. So. All right. We'll make sure to add all that as well. But it's been awesome talking to you, and I look forward to talking to you again. And I will touch base with you because I know I need to come in.
I love it. Thank you so much.
Thanks for coming in.
Yeah, I appreciate it.